Welcome to the No More Meds podcast with Dr. Corinne Weaver. Are you stressed out because you keep getting sick and don't know what steps to take? Are you sick of not getting answers from your doctor and always needing to take drugs? How would your life be different if you were healthy? Be inspired and stay tuned for some practical solutions for healthy living.
Welcome to the No More Meds show. I am so excited to have a special guest with us today. I'm your host, Dr. Corinne Weaver, and I have Mandi Williams with us today. And the whole mission of the show is to provide you and your family healthy tips so you don't need more meds. And we are excited to have Mandi because she's going to give us some special tips today. So let me just share with you her story, and she'll obviously go in more in her story, but this is what I have that I think is really interesting. Being an upper cervical doctor, I kind of want to talk about this malformation just a little bit, Mandi, but let's talk about your bio real quick. She was diagnosed with a chronic illness, Kyrie Malformation, and she got serious about clean living after starting to grow immune to antibiotics. She learned to reduce exposure to toxins, and she learned about boosting her health through good nutrition. During this journey, she developed organic elderberry syrup. Seed syrup and more is committed to helping achieve better health through delicious organic products. And let me tell you, I love it, and our kids love it as well. It's so yummy, yummy, yummy. So let's go into what that malformation is, because I'm sure a lot of people are like, Kyrie Malformation, what is that?
Yep. So thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Just to jump in the start of things, Kyrie Malformation is a very rare neurological brain disorder. My son first was diagnosed with Kyrie, and we had no idea what it was. I was actually a paralegal for a law firm 8 years ago now. And when my son was not meeting his milestones, the pediatrician recommended us doing a special visit with a specialist in the neurological field. And Jaden, we had an MRI, and we discovered that he had a Kyrie Malformation, which is basically your brain is too big for your head. That's the easiest way to describe it. And in order to relieve symptoms and relieve you of the progression of the disease, they recommend you having a decompression of your brain to alleviate the herniation of the brain that presses down on your spinal cord. Jaden also had a tethered cord, strabismus. He had issues with his balance and gait. Basically, you're either born symptomatic or you're not. And you can become symptomatic with traumatic experiences, car wrecks, concussions, things of that matter. We knew it was genetic, and we did not know where the Kyrie Malformation came from and where Jaden got it from until we fast forwarded 5 years after he was diagnosed, and I had a car accident. I flipped my car and got a concussion that I was not recovering from. And my primary doctor said, your son's got this genetic condition. He's got Kyrie Malformation of the brain. Let's do an MRI of the brain. And we discovered a week later that I had Kyrie Malformation. And a month later, I had brain decompression. And so basically the brain decompression is, again, just a herniation of the brain that presses down on your spinal cord. And it can give you immediate relief, or you may not find relief at all. It is not a cure. It is just to slow the progression of the disease.
Yeah, that was a really good explanation. You know, when we studied it in school, you know, us being upper cervical doctors, you know, chiropractors, and, you know, we study that. And so I've seen a few of my patients have that, where they come in and they were fine. And like you said, they had a car accident, and then all of a sudden they have these extreme headaches. And it's not like your normal headaches, you know, like you have some patients like, I got this headache. I'm talking about extreme pain.
It was very debilitating. We thought it was a concussion, and I've never had a concussion before, and I could not stop vomiting, and I could not see straight. And I literally was in the emergency room every other day. Every other day was the only way I felt like I was going to find relief. I literally felt like I was dying when I had migraines come on. Now my migraines are far and few. Like, you would not know right now that I have one today, but I have not had one in months, whereas it was every other day. So it's pretty wild, and it's really hard to see too when you have a child who suffers from it and they don't know how to explain it, and there's nothing you can take to really cure it or make it better. You just have to go through the ropes and let it take its course and hope for a better day for the next day.
Now, I know you're really into essential oils as well.
Yes.
And I notice with patients that can help. Have you noticed anything, blends to help with your type of headaches, to help Jaden or yourself?
There are some that I have felt like help. I actually have my diffuser going right now behind me. But there are some blends that have helped and some not, but I swear by them and I live by them. Peppermint has always been a great one. They say caffeine for any migraines, but with Chiari too can help relieve the symptoms. So we absolutely love peppermint in this house. There is another one called In Tune by doTERRA that they make. There are several actually. I actually love frankincense and I apply it to my temples and behind my ears, king of all oils. There are several different ones that I make, and I can't really tell which ones really help us or not with there not being a cure, but I definitely say peppermint helps.
Right. I mean, because the situation is with that malformation, the lower part of your brain is basically going too far into that, what we call that brainstem. And so all that pressure builds up. I was going over an MRI just yesterday where this patient has this. And really the only thing, sometimes we can help patients, but again, you said there's not a cure. We're just really trying to help relieve that pressure. And I know you probably didn't you have to have surgery? Did you,
Yes.
you and Jaden have to have surgery?
Yes. Yes, I had a brain decompression. It's ironic. I had it 5 years after he had his. And it was one of the toughest surgeries I've ever had to go through, just because you're dealing with your brain. That was the longest recovery of any. I've had several surgeries I've ever had in my life. And it's ironic because seeing your child go through something like that first and not really been able to relate with how it feels, and then you having that surgery and then seeing as an adult what that's like really puts a lot in perspective. For us, the main things that affect our day-to-day life is the weather, the barometric pressure, like you were saying, when it's raining or storming, or the temperature. We have low pain tolerance to if it's really hot outside. We have a low pain tolerance if it's really cold outside. So there's a lot of things that affect us on a daily basis. Unfortunately, and we just, like I said, some have it really worse than others. My son has it far worse than I do. He wears orthotics. He has AFOs he wears daily to help with his balance and coordination. He has physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy. He's been doing that since we found out he was diagnosed with Chiari. So that's something we do every single day, Monday through Friday. And it's just, he knows no different. It's just a part of our daily lives. Honestly.
Part of your life.
Yeah.
Now, you were saying that you were, I guess you had a lot of antibiotics. What were you taking the antibiotics for?
Yeah, so with Chiari malformation, some of us have lower immune systems just because of being chronically ill. And there's not really more of an explanation as to why. It's just because we have the chronic illness. And so with us being, again, we have worse pain when we're out in the heat, whereas, vitamin D is really good for you. We can't be outside, so we spend a lot of times being hermit crabs inside. And so our immune systems just aren't up to par as most normal people. And so specifically Jaden, I remember him having chronic respiratory infections, RSV, bronchitis, ear infections. So it felt like every other week he was on an antibiotic. And it became to a point to where he was growing immune to antibiotics. And it was becoming very scary for me, not knowing where we go from there. he started growing immune and would become really sick, and I had to make a decision if I was going to continue with my job or if I was needing to become a stay-at-home mom. And weirdly enough, I had prayed forever to be a stay-at-home mom, but it wasn't the way God answered my prayer. I wasn't praying to be a stay-at-home mom to take care of a chronically ill child, but then I became chronically ill, and that's when I discovered and knew it was time to do what he was leading me to do, became a stay-at-home mom, and that's what led me to natural wellness. I had friends introduce me to essential oils and homeopathic remedies. And that's when I discovered elderberry syrup from a friend. We were buying it, and I finally just said, let me try to make this myself. And one thing led to another. I started selling it out of my kitchen, and then it became a full-time business. So
yeah, and you have a commercial kitchen, don't
yes.
you? Yeah. So
yeah, we make it in a commercial kitchen. We have it licensed. We have it permitted and inspected. It's something you have to do by the Ag and Health Department. It's required in order to sell it outside of your home. And so I never ever anticipated for it to go as far as it did, but it did, and I don't have any intentions of stopping. I love what I do. I love helping others, especially there are way more chronically ill people out there than you realize. And even people that are healthy want a more natural remedy to help them before reversing to the alternative to meds. And so when I discovered how well elderberry syrup, I was amazingly surprised with just a teaspoon a day for my son, how much better he was, and how we had gone from antibiotics to every other week to not needing an antibiotic maybe once in 6 months. That was a drastic change for me. And that's when I said, I have to, provide this for other people, and people loved it. And then I was so excited about hearing people's testimonies of side of mine of how well the syrup worked for them, despite if it was, a chronic illness or if it was some other ailment that they were dealing with. The syrup really made a difference, not just in our lives, but my customers and my friends and my family.
Now, where do you get your elderberries?
My elderberries, actually, I have several plants here at my home that are native elderberry, but oddly enough, one of my competitors was so kind over the COVID season when they were becoming scarce and I could not find elderberries. She actually has a co-op in Austria. That is where the elderberries resonate from. That's where they come from, and they are the most potent in Austria. And I reached out to her over beginning of March, and I could not find elderberries anywhere. I used to get them from Monterey Bay. That's where my berries and my herbs used to come from. And then I started looking into her, where her berries come from, and noticed they were coming from Europe. And I was scared, but I reached out to her and I was like, what would you think about me being able to buy berries from you? And with her being my largest competitor, I was, I had my mind set up. She was going to say no, but she didn't. She actually shared them with me. And I have invested now since March, all my elderberries coming from there. And I have seen a huge difference in the berries that are native versus the berries that come from Austria.
Wow, that's awesome. Good for you for reaching out and making that little step of faith,
I was not going to have something to provide to my customers and my family. And so I was like, the least she can do is say no.
Right, right.
Now I have all my berries from here on out coming from there, thanks to her. So
now, with all the herbs in the world, why elderberries?
Elderberries have so many different properties for healing. It's amazing what they have. They have it provides vitamin A, vitamin C, so many antioxidants. It has bioflavonoids, flavonoids, iron, potassium, beta carotene. It also helps with not just cold and flu, but it also helps with, it's a diuretic. So if you're running a fever, it helps break the fever. If you have swelling, bruising, a lot of people will actually take the elderberry and apply it topically directly on the bruise or the swelling area. It is great for inflammation. It is great for arthritis. It is great, again, for cold and flu, wounds, hay fever. It is great for people who suffer with sinuses like I do year round, sinusitis, respiratory infections. It helps with pretty much everything. I have diabetics who are not able to consume the sugar from the honey that's provided in the elderberry. So I make an elderberry without the sugar. So the diabetics can benefit in that way.
Do you make like a tincture?
Not yet. I have looked into that, but I basically just make the syrup either for a baby who cannot consume the honey just as well as a diabetic. No one under the age of 12 months should consume local or any kind of raw, pure honey. And the same goes for our diabetics. So there are different ways that you can make it that can help with your illness or whatever that ails you.
Well, I mean, you listed all of that, and it's so true. The majority of the vitamin companies that I've worked with for over the years, they have elderberry in their viral, complex. But like you said, it's not just, you don't have to think about just viral complex. I mean, gosh, we've been talking about viruses a lot this year.
Yes.
It seems like
that's another one. That's a great thing you brought that up. It also is antiviral. So whether it be viruses, stomach viruses, it also is a great preventative to prevent any kind of viruses out there.
Right. And it's a beautiful way to boost up your immune system. And I like the fact that it's a food, and it's an herb. And so it's providing those nutrients that you need that you can't get in our food these days.
Yes.
What have you changed nutrition wise? Didn't you say that were you eating different?
Well, yeah.
Were you eating different before? And then now you've kind of switched the family into a more natural healing?
It is. I have a 19-year-old daughter, and I was a single mother to her prior to remarrying and having my son. And with me being a full-time mom at the time and having her and being single and her in sports and academics outside of school, I was literally all about the cheapest and fastest way to feed our family. And majority of the time it was either Pop-Tarts or sugary cereal, all of those things that are fast and convenient and cheap. Microwavable. It wasn't until my son actually became diagnosed and I saw him growing immune to antibiotics that I finally discovered and thought to myself, we've got to do something different. No one was chronically ill prior to that, including myself. And then we hired a nutritionist and we really decided to just go all the way and discovered that not only was he growing immune to antibiotics, but he also had Candida in the gut. And we just figured there were simple ways from the nutritionist to avoid things, even though it cost more. Simple things to take out of his diet and our diet as a family. And we all, even considering our chronic illness, have done so much better with our health. We avoid dairy, gluten, soy, wheat, and you can find those things. They are a little bit more costly, but it's worth it for us to stay well, especially right now and the season. So yes.
Well, I mean, exactly like you're saying is, it may cost a little bit more now, but it's going to cost you more later, if you don't do it.
Saw it. Yes, that's exactly right.
And that's way, I don't know if you were raised that way, but I was kind of raised, we just didn't think about food being like a problem, you just ate and you moved on with your life, and now realizing, and I saw a video of me the other day when I was 10 years old, like drinking Mountain Dew. And I'm just like looking at my video and I'm like, I can't believe like I did that, and so, but there's so many people today that are still drinking sodas, still eating Pop-Tarts and not knowing until you get hit. And
Right.
It's sad because that's what I see in the office is that someone gets hit with something and then it's like, okay, I'm ready for make that change.
That's
You know,
it.
And, so good thing for you to to make the health changes so you're not in and out of the doctor's office all the time, getting more and more and more medication. And I really see your business really taking off. I know you tried not just the elderberry syrup, but what else are you stepping into now in your
We have
business?
tried several things, but I want to try things that actually work for my family, like the elderberry syrup. So I was looking into other remedies to help with inflammation and arthritis. That is one thing with chronic illness that we unfortunately suffer from is inflammation. And especially as you get older, their inflammation just it's hard. It makes life hard on certain days, especially. And with us about to step into fall and winter time, I wanted another supplement that really not only supported the immune system, but helped again support inflammation and arthritis. And I looked into fire cider. It's completely different than elderberry syrup, but I started taking it and it's completely different taste than the elderberry syrup, but it worked. I was pleasantly surprised that I've seen so many doctors talk to me about my arthritis. And unfortunately, I have rheumatoid arthritis, and that's a part of the illness that I deal with on a daily basis. And I have tried so many over the cream topicals. My doctors have put me on so many steroids. And again, we do the elderberry syrup, but I needed another supplement to help alleviate that pain. And so we started the fire cider, and I had my husband taking it with me as well. And we noticed that it was very helpful. And even my 7-year-old would taste it and like it, and it's filled with apple cider vinegar and all of the herbs, thyme, oregano, jalapenos. There are so many supplements in that fire cider. I can't even think of them all at this time. But
do they ferment? Are you fermenting it with the vinegar?
You ferment it from 4 to 6 weeks. So I try and let it go the full 6 weeks. And it truly has been another wonderful supplement that we've added to our daily regimen. We do it 2 times a day, just like we do the elderberry syrup. We have a teaspoon, the children do, or a tablespoon if you're adult, a hefty tablespoon 2 times a day, once in the morning and again at evening. I always say you should do it 2 times a day and split it up so that you can give your body a good balance of it instead of doing it all at the same time. And it has really been beneficial to our family.
Well, apple cider vinegar is like, I call it liquid gold. I mean, it does so many things. And that's something I've taken for the last 6 or 7 years, first thing in the morning. I love apple cider vinegar. Not just, so many people complain about digestion. Well, with arthritis and inflammation, it's all in the gut, right? In the digestion system. So the apple cider vinegar is a really, really good thing. And I love that you're throwing some thyme and you're throwing some oregano. And I don't know what else is in there. Are you adding any ginger?
It has ginger, thyme, oregano, jalapenos, orange, the apple cider vinegar mother, and I know I'm forgetting things that in it. There are about 10 different herbs that go into it.
Are you adding any turmeric?
Turmeric. That's what makes the color, because yes, we add turmeric in it, and then when it's done fermenting, at the end, when I'm done straining it, I will add a 1/4 cup of local pure raw honey to it to kind of take off the bite of the fire cider. And also, again, it's another supplement or the honey that helps with your seasonal allergies. So if you're not into the syrup, the elderberry syrup, then you can benefit by the apple cider vinegar. It also has immune properties in it. So yes, it has all of the good things in it.
Well, I can't wait to try it. Is it available now? Are you selling it, or are you just testing? Is it in the testing works?
I'm selling it now. I'll be glad to bring you a sample by.
Yeah, that would be great. I would love to share that with our patients. Now, does it need to be refrigerated?
It does. It does need to be refrigerated, and it is good for up to 6 months. So the shelf life in the refrigerator is really great. I mean, and it won't even last you that long if you are really consuming it the way you should be.
And yes. you do a tablespoon morning and night for yourself?
That's correct.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, I can't wait for that.
I line up our little measuring cups every morning and every evening with elderberry syrup and fire cider. And that's just something that we all do every morning and every evening.
You get your little shots in.
Yeah, it's like a little treat, actually.
Oh, that's so awesome. That's the way that we should do our shots. Instead of into our arm, we do the elderberry and you got the fire cider shots. So
Yeah.
that's our flow shots, right?
That's right.
Well, that's awesome, Mandi. Is there anything else that you would like to the audience listening to know about you and what your mission is and what you want to do to save the world with free from antibiotics or anything else that we didn't cover that you would love for them to know about you?
I just always say that, I never in a million years thought I would be where I am right now. I never thought I would be selling anything, let alone, running a health and wellness business ever. I went from, again, a single mom to a mom dealing with a chronically ill child who's also on the autism spectrum. And I, honest to goodness, did not think I was going to have time to be able to run a business, let alone take it as far as it has. We have 20 different stores now locally. And when you really are passionate about something and you really love what you do and you see how it benefits not just your family, but other people, I just say, don't stop and do what you love, regardless if it seems impossible. It's always been a dream of mine to have a business of my own, but I just never thought it was possible, considering especially having a chronic illness of my own and my son. It is literally a full-time thing. We're constantly in and out of doctors' offices, making sure we're managing and we're stable with our Kyrie and therapies. But if you truly are passionate about something and it means a lot to you, then I say go for it. I never in a million years thought I would be where I am, that I would be doing this with you. And things are very much possible if you just stick to your guns, and not every day is perfect. But in the grand scheme of things, I wouldn't change anything. And I'm super excited to see where we continue to grow, and how I just get excited when I hear people message me and tell me that whatever I'm providing to them, whether it be a syrup or a fire cider or essential oil, that it helped them and they feel better. And that's my mission and my goal in life, is to, I would want someone to help me like they did, and they led me to where I am. And had it not been for them, I would probably still be taking medicine. And so that's my goal and my mission, is to help people as naturally as I can.
Well, I can definitely tell you're passionate about it, and your energy is just very enlightening. Just to see you talk about it. And when you come into the office and deliver the elderberry syrup, you got that big smile on your face and you're in and out. And I'm like, gosh, why does she get so much energy? So it must be the fire cider and the elderberries that keep you going. But I know it's your passion that you run on. And, people are going to listen to this and be motivated. And that's the main thing, is keep people motivated to take care of their family. Because, now they're doing virtual visits. Doctors are doing virtual visits. How can you help people with the virtual visits?
Right.
And you're running through Walgreens and picking up a drug. That's not the way it's supposed to be.
Right.
So, there's so many tips I know that we can't share today, but you've given us so much already, and I'm excited about getting the fire cider in the office. I will definitely be picking some of that. Yeah, we'll be picking some of that up and sharing that with patients, because I know how much they have benefited from the elderberry syrup, and I really appreciate that.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys just as well. Anything I can do to help.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Mandi, for being on the show today.
Thank you, Dr. Weaver.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the No More Meds podcast. If you enjoyed this podcast, please share your favorite episodes with your family and friends, or at least leave a review on iTunes or Stitcher. The content and opinions expressed are those of the host and presenters. They are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent disease. Product statements have not been evaluated by the FDA.